Hello and welcome to today's broadcast. Thanks for joining me. So much to look forward to with a hearing on Wednesday from the January 6th committee. If you're pro-democracy, like this person is, then you'll be interested in the outcome of what happens in the Sedition trials. And let's see, they're starting soon. Seditious conspiracy for Oath Keepers leader Stuart Rhodes. So I saved something about that. We'll have a quick look. 5 members of the Oath Keepers, including leader Stuart Rhodes, featured there with an eye patch, face trial for seditious conspiracy next week, and the trial could reveal new information about the quest to overturn the 2020 election results as prosecutors continue to probe Trump's conduct. So Trump and his co-conspirators. The other parts of the title I put up today were Sinema and Snowden. Edward Snowden, the United States traitor who absconded to Russia at Putin's request and has today been offered citizenship in Russia, but presumably won't be conscripted into Russia's war of aggression against its neighbor, Ukraine. And I say that because apparently Edward Snowden's lawyers have said something to that effect of he won't be conscripted, he won't be pushed into Putin's mobilization effort, which does look like it's going pretty badly, by the way. Someone shot up a conscription center today and in Russia, and he was taken alive, but the recruitment chief is being treated in hospital, fighting for his life. So that's something, just to indicate to officials in Russia that it's hard to get people to fight for a cause that is so patently unjust and so patently imperialistic, aggressive, and disrespects the sanctity of life, disrespects human rights, disrespects its Ukrainian neighbors, and just involves carnage to uphold a narrative of greatness propounded by a dictatorial con artist leader. In this case, Vladimir Putin, but Donald Trump similarly was and is prepared to sacrifice any number of lives to serve his goal of cementing and increasing whatever access to power and money he has. All right, let's look at some other bookmarks that I've saved. These are protests from the city of Tehran in Iran, where women have been waving their hijabs as people chant "Women, Life, Liberty" on the 9th night of protests. And that was a few days ago, but the 9th night of protests, so now it's probably the 13th night, in Iran over the death of Mahsa Amini in morality police custody. And then there's been a near total internet shutdown by the state. That's going to interfere with the economy, the ability of Iranian citizens to conduct their business and go about their daily lives and communicate with each other, but most importantly also show to the world and show to each other that there are many who are no longer content to allow persecution from the morality police, to allow that level of imposition on Iranian women. So you can see the women. It's good that their faces are blurred. There are some men standing with them as well, but you can see the women waving these black hijabs to say, you cannot compel us to wear these without protest. We are not docile bodies in the service of a theocratic religious narrative that women should be shielded from public view, or that their hair should be shielded from public view, or that their hair in any way, shape, or form is indecent. Hair. And, oh, there's some video, there's some sound to this one. Women here are burning their headscarves. I think it's important because American women need to also remember to turn out. I know a lot of women are aware of what's happened to their prospects of bodily autonomy in the United States. Oh, there's a girl standing on top of that wall saying, "I will not get down." I read a translation the other day. And the morality police are like, what do they say? "Don't touch me. I'm not moving from here. It's not only for the headscarf. I'm here because you killed Marsha." Yeah. I think a 21-year-old young woman visiting Iran killed in custody of the morality police for not wearing her hijab properly. So a level of religiously motivated control imposed on women with potentially deadly consequences, and deadly consequences for some, and there will likely be thousands killed by the Iranian regime under the current circumstances of widespread protests. Okay. I'm going to bring up another point, because while we are talking about autocrats either desiring docile bodies who do whatever they're told, or autocrats just willing to use other people's lives disposably in service of promoting a particular narrative, there's a post here I wanted to share because Donald Trump definitely sacrificed hundreds of thousands of American lives in his determination to not have a national testing strategy or a national containment strategy when COVID first made its appearance in the United States. So this account warns, just a reminder, you know what else he lied about, that he knew he was lying about, that they all knew he was lying about, that they all helped him lie about, even though they all knew that this lie was directly causing more people to die, and that is COVID. So we know that the phrase "the big lie" has been popularized to refer to Donald Trump's lies about the election, to pretend that Joe Biden sought to steal the election results, which is prediction of Donald Trump's approach to the election, which was to steal it by any means necessary, including to decry the legitimacy of the results, and in an effort to incite a multi-pronged coup attempt with some physical violence to attack the Capitol, to delay the certification of Joe Biden's Electoral College victory and overall victory, whilst his complicit allies like Jeffrey Clark, John Eastman, etc., who were lawyers, sought to advance a strategy of violating the element of the Constitution that said the election results must be certified by the vice president on the 6th of January, that if they could just stop that happening from that date, they would have a stronger case to say, cancel the results of this election and let's use a constitutional provision that says if there's no clear winner of the election, then just get one representative from each state in the House of Representatives to decide who should be president, in which case it would have been Republicans, who have a fewer number of representatives in the House, but if there was only one representative per state, would have had a higher number of representatives, and so would have been able to select a Republican president as winner of the 2020 election in defiance of the actual $1 million result. And I say millions of dollars because it takes millions of dollars to hold an election. That's my microwave. Nobody needs to worry about that. So yes, remember that while Trump was eliminating the pandemic response team, Republicans let him. When he was lying about the risks of COVID, Republicans supported him. While Trump continued to target Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act during the pandemic, Republicans helped him. Trump didn't kill Republicans. Trump didn't kill Americans by himself. Republicans killed Americans too. And harsh but fair description of, or summary of the events of that particular era of early on in the pandemic. And someone notes that, yes, if Trump had even just said, wear a mask and then get the vaccines, get your shots, thousands of lives would have been saved. And they also point out that they heard him say to a reporter, "I listened to Dr. Fauci and did exactly the opposite." People have probably heard that. Dr. Fauci has been villainized. Villainizing and demonizing people is, of course, a symptom of fascism. It's a strategy of fascism to encourage and escalate emotional thinking, hatred-based thinking that isn't really clear-headed evaluation of risk benefits. Yes. All right, what else are we going to cover today? It's actually a good point from Canadian, now American journalist Daniel Dale, who was poached from the Toronto Star because of his accuracy in reporting, his thoroughness, and his willingness to refer to Donald Trump's lies as specifically lies. So let's hear what Daniel says about the border.
Republicans also keep citing the large quantities of fentanyl being seized at the border. But fentanyl being seized is more proof the border is not actually open. And here's a critical point almost never mentioned in GOP talking points. The vast majority of these seizures happen at the legal ports of entry where cars and buses and trucks line up to enter. And the vast majority of the time, it is being brought in by U.S. citizens or legal residents. About 85% quantities of fentanyl being seized at the border. But fentanyl being seized is more proof the border is not actually...
Hang on, let's pull this a bit forward. Sorry. So seizures are happening at the border, which is proof that there is a border, a functional border. Fentanyl. It's good for me to learn the pronunciation. Fentanyl. Oh, well, that seems to be a little bit of a connectivity issue. I wonder if you can still see me. If you can, thanks for staying with me while I'm having a loading issue. That's okay. We have other points to discuss. I'm going to quickly look up what I wanted to include in my... I want to make a pro-democracy newsletter to have talking points for people to circulate. And I just saw something to remind me that there is a Saudi Arabian woman who's in prison for 34 years for tweeting. And Saudis living in exile are sounding the alarm on MBS's ever-worsening crackdown on dissent. So, yes, it is frustrating that people still are reliant on fossil fuel types of energy, which are provided in part by Saudi Arabian oil and gas facilities. It is hard because trade deals with Saudi Arabia are propping up a despotic monarchy and a despotic theocratic monarchy that uses religion and a police state to oppress dissent, to stifle free speech, to use fear and intimidation and outright ridiculously long jail sentences for daring to express oneself. So that's a good balance to the outrage, the manufactured outrage of the right, who often claim that their free speech is being stifled when they incur social consequences for being racist. Now, a 34-year jail sentence for tweeting criticism of the government is very different to losing opportunities socially or professionally because decent people reject your racism. That is not a government-issued consequence. That is a people-driven, values-led decision. All right. Well, the man who threw a fire extinguisher at police officers on January the 6th has pled guilty to a single felony count of assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers using a dangerous weapon. So he used a fire extinguisher. He threw it. You get hit by a fire extinguisher in the head from somebody throwing it at you at close contact. Yes, You could have a significant head injury, you could die, and any number of lives could be impacted by your actions. Okay. All right, well, I think I should probably go. But it's been lovely chatting, and thank you to any replay viewers as well. Because this Twitter thing is still loading, maybe if I just ignore that. Oh, look, now it feels like loading again. But I'm tired of you. A little clip. I'm going to listen to Hillary Clinton explaining what journalism should be today.
Both sides journalism, which can't quite bring itself to say, you know what, that was a lie. You know what, that guy really has once again said something that is not true. Or let's investigate a little further to find out what's really going on here. That, you know, if you attacked a Republican, you'd have to attack a Democrat, or vice versa. And let's follow the facts and the evidence. It's hard for people to find the facts because we are bombarded with opinions about facts we may not even know. And so let's get back to telling people what actually happened, what the sequence of events and facts were, before we put on a bunch of people who are opining about things that have not been adequately described. I also think on some of the really big issues that face our world, like climate change, don't give in to the idea that, yeah, we have, like, you know, the scientific consensus, thousands of scientists saying one thing, but we have found 4 guys over here who say something different. So we have to give them, you know, equal coverage. No, at some point, go with what the facts and the evidence and the truth happen to be. So that's what I think we could do better. And we've got to get back to local journalism, because people have no idea what's happening in their own community because they live in, you know, news deserts.
News deserts. This is important. An important point. I wanted to do a pro-democracy newsletter that could be adapted at local levels by people inserting some details of their local candidates or local events, because we do need more human connection at a local level to reduce people's susceptibility to fear-mongering and hate-mongering, because those are the weapons of fascists who seek to strip power from you. They will boost your spirits for a moment by creating a false sense of community around norm violation, around contrarianness that just challenges everything and says all the experts are wrong. Boost your own ego by despising anything anybody's ever told you just in one fell swoop and say everything's fake news. Your new god of information is Donald Trump or Steve Bannon, just anybody who nihilistically tells you that everyone else is a liar and they and their friends are the sole purveyors of truth. And only they will tell you the truth about the true threats you face from whatever denigrated, stigmatized group of people they're using as a rung underneath their feet, as part of a fascist ladder to climb to power, to overturn democracy, because fascists infest a democracy. I don't want to say infest. Like a cuckoo, they inhabit the structures of a democracy, and then they corrupt it and subvert it and abandon it behind them. And then you don't have any democracy anymore, which is a system of protecting people, a system of protecting a majority from being oppressed by a powerful, wealthy minority, from vested interests. So, hope you enjoyed the broadcast. And again, thank you to any replay viewers. Ta-ta, all the best, and take care of yourselves and each other, and take care of your hope levels, because when we suffer from a hope deficit, it makes it difficult to have adequate levels of energy to match fascists in terms of passion and intensity. Passion is contagious, and when your way of life and your societies and your communities are under threat from fascist aspiring politicians or aspiring entertainers who are also fascist co-conspirators like Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon, you want to match their levels of passion. You want to be able to reach out to people to say, use your democratic tools at your disposal to protect yourself from what are the inevitable outcomes associated with fascism. They get more power for themselves, and they use it to oppress you. They use it to continue to divide to conquer, so turning people against each other, creating a subset of people who are so untethered from reality, they can't believe, they can't engage with facts anymore, because they've adopted such an entrenched habit of dismissing everything, using the fascistic techniques of repetition to imprint upon people a strategy of fake news, dismiss everything as fake news. So yeah, there's a lot of dangers. There's a lot of things to take care of, but passion, hope, finding ways to be hopeful even when circumstances don't necessarily lend themselves to hope. You say, well, maybe I would have been complacent if things looked too rosy. Some things look dark, which means there's more work to be done. And the very act of choosing hope has often helped people extricate themselves and their worlds from nightmare scenarios. So you've got to lower your expectations that nothing bad will ever happen. Bad things will and are happening. There's work to be done to bring as much good to bear on the situation as possible. Thank you, and goodbye for today.